Hi there. I don't know whether I've covered this topic before, but it concerns one Gnostic attitude towards magic, the occult realms, the hidden realms, the etheric realms, beginning with the astral and etc. Um, so here we have the hamster in its cage, and there's this hamster which looks more like a dog. Anyway, so it's in its little cage, and this represents the embodied soul, which is imprisoned in the material universe, which is a cornerstone of Gnosticism, or a key feature of the belief system. And here's its little wheel, little exercise wheel, and here's a piece of cheese. um, So basically, here is the hamster, and the hamster gets on the wheel from time to time and spins around and does all its stuff on the wheel. its busyness. We're kept busy by material concerns, and in reward, we're given a piece of cheese um, for concerning ourselves with the material world. This piece of cheese obviously is symbolic of all kinds of success and recognition and, I don't know, qualification and peer group recognition and appreciation and partner appreciation and family appreciation and all the whole thing, society honouring us and being on the honours list and of the UK royal family or whatever. This is our piece of cheese. There's also an electric bar which stings us if we don't get on the wheel and go round. So obviously we try to avoid the sting, and we go for the cheese, which is given to us as a result of our running around this little wheel here. And all this is contained within the cage of the material universe. So far, so good. Now, of course, often the piece of cheese, I suppose, also creates within us imagination and a certain amount of psychic experience. And here we have the very same cheese hamster, which is only half a hamster here. Should be a whole one. Its little wheel. The stinger's gone, but the cheese is still there, and the wheel's still there, and you've got your bit of hamster. And the hamster can jump on the wheel on the astral plane and spin round, and it gets another little astral piece of cheese as a reward. It gets some sort of quote transcendental experience. It seems like a transcendental experience. So the hamster's quite happy here to be getting some recognition and getting some reward in some shape or form on the astral level. And then so it goes on, and on each level, on each etheric level, you've got the repeat of the same situation. You've got the cage and the hamster and the wheel and the piece of cheese and perhaps the stinger as well, but although possibly that's gone. And you go up and up and up, and you go sort of back up many different levels, occult dimensions, hidden levels of occult experience. And each one of them is a mirror to the real world, and it follows the same modus operandi. The wheel, the piece of cheese, and the hamster, and the cage in which the hamster is kept. And it's just the fact that it's on an etheric level or astral level or upper astral level or whatever. It's neither here nor there because it's the very same situation, just repeated endlessly, perhaps, or certainly up to a very high level. But of course, as you go up the levels of consciousness, as it were, up to the etheric levels, of course, perhaps the cheese gets bigger. The reward is bigger for the experiences that you have and the experiences that you pursue as a result of your magical training, of your astral training or your astral experiences. Or maybe you take hallucinogenic drugs or drugs like Tegretol or something, which are prescription drugs, and these give you trances and experiences, deeper and deeper dreams, more lucid dreams, dreams that take you further into the well, in Kabbalistic terms, the tree of life, and further into the various dimensions that exist within the psyche, and on all intents and purposes, you're following a spiritual path. But in fact, are you following a spiritual path, or are you simply a hamster on its wheel in another dimension? That's my point. And maybe so, maybe yes, maybe no. I don't. This is one of the sort of the issues, really. Perhaps there's a potential argument here between people. Some people might argue that at least you're off the material plane, and you're going into more refined, more subtle planes of consciousness and existence. Where there's less of a wheel, and less of a hamster, and less of the cheese. But there could be more of the cheese and more reward for going deeper and deeper into something which is mere reflection of the realm of the material, which of course is where the demiurge and the archons and his agents, in other words, reside. And it could be, well, the argument is that all this, no matter how subtle the dimension, all the dimensions belong to the demiurge or one or the other of the archons, and they're all material. They're all reflections of the material stuff of which this material universe is made, but just on a more refined stuff, as it were. And some people may say, well, that's okay. What's wrong with that? Perhaps so. But I mean, when you get back to the material realm, the hamster, which is our material hamster, the embodied soul, perhaps they can have a soul experience, and this will take them to a truly transcendental dimensional space or dimension of consciousness, as it were, through this represented by the circle here, and they escape the hamster cage in reality, not just in the mind, not just in the dreams, not just on the etheric level, but actual. So in a way, what lies beyond this circle here is in fact a reality, is in fact as real, in quotation marks, as the real cage in which the hamster finds itself. So here is a kind of false path, a false spiritual path going up to the etheric levels, and here is a true spiritual path which is going to take you to a transcendental dimension, which nevertheless is not astral, it's not etheric. It is in fact, it's in fact the underlying reality of all realities. So it's like the essence of reality itself. This is interesting because, we have no concept really of what this reality of realities might be. And even calling it transcendental could be a kind of a misnomer, a misunderstanding of what we're actually dealing with here, which is the essence, the underlying reality, or simply just a completely different reality than the one that we actually, our senses tell us about now, and our consciousness processes these sensory data, these bits of sensory data that come into us about the material universe. But we're talking about something totally different, totally other, totally outside the material universe, and totally outside the cage in which the soul is said to be imprisoned. Well, the soul is imprisoned in the body, and the body is imprisoned in the material universe. But it's no good going. The magic hamster isn't as the magic hamster is still as imprisoned as the real hamster, which is, of course, you and me and all sentient beings that are trapped in this material universe, and all souls that are trapped within those sentient beings. So this is the issue at hand, and I cover this. I have covered this before, um, but of course, it's very difficult to say because it could be that I am just creating a dialectical distinction here where none actually exists. That eventually these etheric levels come round to exactly the same point as I am saying that is truly transcendental. So it could be that these it all comes round again in a complete circle, and perhaps you can leapfrog from the material universe straight into the transcendental dimension, but it in one sort of in one kind of dramatic Gnostic experience, if you like. Or I suppose it could be gradualist in the sense that you follow some sort of contemplation which leads you there. Or it could be that the whole magical journey through magical rituals and the whole Hermeticist kind of universe and the whole of the journey of the Kabbalah eventually leads you to the same place. But even if we say that, it is still possible to get caught in any one of these levels of dimension, caught on your spinning wheel with your piece of cheese, and you haven't transcended the hamsterness of your existence, as it were. So that's all basically I'm saying. So perhaps it isn't an either or. Perhaps it is both. But one of the paths is perhaps more perilous than the other path. Perilous in the sense that you can just simply replacing one prison, one hamster cage for another. And that has always been, I suppose, that is a warning, I suppose, that a lot of magical groups, Western magical tradition groups like the Golden Dawn, for example, do mention that at the beginning of the Golden Dawn book of magic. It talks about ego, and it talks about getting trapped in a gobbledygook world of which just reflects your ego. And just reflects your sort of your passions, and has nothing to do with transcendental magic at all. So I think the Golden Dawn was pretty aware of the dangers of mysticism, as it were, dangers in the sense of not you're going to have your head spinning round and round like The Exorcist, exactly, but you're just going to get trapped. You're just going to get lost in a labyrinth and not be able to find your way out for a very long time. Whereas if you took the direct route, you might get there quicker, whatever that means. What does quicker mean, and what does slower or quicker mean in the dimension, in the dimensions where space and time doesn't exist? I mean, it doesn't make much difference, really, does it? So I suppose it's horses for courses, isn't it? Really, I suppose. And some people, might be better off with a model that takes them to a transcendental dimension, and other people prefer a model which they don't mind the reflection of the hamster cage on the magical etheric levels because they've dealt with the hamsterness of existence on the material level, and they don't mind if it is reflected on a different dimension because they already know, they've already kind of understand the situation as it is now, but still they can still project their consciousness still further from the astral level to another more rarefied etheric level, and continue on that path until in fact they end up going to the same place as the person that creates the transcendental Gnostic experience. In Zen Buddhism, there is a debate between what they call gradualism and the sudden enlightenment. In Zen, you can have, as I say, a sudden enlightenment. It just comes to you, just crashes into your consciousness. Or you can have a gradual process, which is a result of years of meditation and contemplation and reading scriptures and discussing scriptures with your guru or whatever, or with other disciples. Um, Again, the gradualist approach, is there's a problem with the gradualists. The gradualists say that the people who have a sudden enlightenment, they question whether this sudden enlightenment is not some sort of, I don't know, some kind of manic depressive episode, some bipolar event in your life as a result of stress, and it's not really enlightenment. It just seems like it. But the other against that, the other argument is the gradualist approach can quickly become corrupted by ego, and it just becomes like a religious cant. It becomes a sort of tradition. It becomes a habit. All this meditation and stuff, and it doesn't actually get you anywhere at all. You're still sort of stuck. So, or maybe there isn't any distinction between gradualism and suddenness at all. Again, maybe human beings just can't help but create dichotomy and dialectical. They have to create this adversarial, dialectical view of life wherever they are and whatever they're talking about. It's just the way humans are hardwired at the moment. So I don't know whether this is very helpful to you, this presentation. Because you're probably going along this path, up through the levels quite happily, and you don't know, you don't think anything's wrong. And I might have put the seed of doubt into your mind, in which case I apologise for that. But at any point, of course, on the different levels, you can, of course, jump, as it were, from have a Gnostic experience on any of these levels and jump to the totally transcendental. And I think that's true enough as well. So if you're on a hermetic path, then I would say continue it, suck it and see kind of way. But if you're thinking about Gnosticism from a non-hermetic point of view, then it could be that you are ready to leapfrog from the material universe straight into the spiritual dimension and experience gnosis. Either you're going to do that gradually through contemplation and a contemplative lifestyle, or you're going to actually have a Gnostic experience, I don't know, next week, tomorrow, in 10 minutes' time. Who can say? Anyway, or it might be that this presentation in itself, has some sort of psychic or magical effect on your spiritual progress, in which case it will have been worth doing this presentation.